tonight on Y News. Scheduled trips at Manila North Harbor are not canceled despite rains and while the country is expecting a tropical storm, according to authorities. Bus operators complain of low income as compared to previous holidays due to small number of passengers traveling this Undas.
Government Chief Peace Negotiator Secretary Silvestre Bello III is optimistic that the joint permanent ceasefire agreement with the CPP-NPA-NDF will be finalized before the year ends. Pag-asa is monitoring 2 tropical depressions in the Pacific Ocean, with one likely to enter the Philippine area of responsibility by tomorrow.
A latest Australian investigation report on the missing Malaysia flight MH370 suggests that no one was in control during the crash. And Denmark is planning to build a gigantic fairytale museum for the most translated writer in the world, hence Christian Andersen.
Y News begins now.
UNTV News and Rescue Command Center. This is Y News with Angelo Castro III, Gerry Alcantara, and Darlene Basingan.
Good evening. The Manila City government struggles to clear tons of garbage at Manila South Cemetery after Undas. Joyce Balancho will tell us why.
Thousands of people who flocked the Manila South Cemetery yesterday left tons of garbage that are collected by trucks sent by the Manila local government. Garbage collector Rodel Modino says due to the volume of trash, it might take until tomorrow for them to finish their job.
Sa tao na ho, kung saan-saan lang ho itatapon kasi kung alam nila meron hong gumaganap na paghahakot ng gobyerno ng Manila City Hall. Basta kami, hindi ho kami aalis dito hanggang hindi malinis to.
Chuchi Foundation, an environmental advocate group stationed inside the cemetery, believes the recyclable waste they gathered can also be put to good use.
Yun namang ginagawa namin ito, mapupunta ito sa mga mission ng Chuchi Foundation tulad ng medical, charity at education kasi may mga scholarship program din kami, mga disaster, lahat ng mga disaster.
34-year-old Junjun Balinaw meanwhile profits from leftover candles. He buys a kilo of candle remains for 15 pesos and sells them for 17 to 18 pesos outside the cemetery.
Taon-taon naman po yan, bumibili kami. Bale, may kumukuha sa amin yan, ginagawa rin kandila.
Meanwhile, despite the pouring rain that started before noon, many people still opted to make last-minute visits to the South Cemetery. Manila Police District Command Post estimates more or less 500 people who went today.
Sobrang dami ng tao kahapon, mas hirap, blood ako. Mas ma-okay dito ngayon kasi konti na ng tao.
Una-una, mahirap gumalaw. Siksikan, tapos mainit. Nagpasya kami magkakapatid na ngayon na lang para medyo maluwag. Tama-tama naman, medyo makulimlim pa. So, eksakto lang.
Joyce Balancho, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
More than 1,000 families lost their homes after a big fire broke out in Barangay Talon 2, Las Piñas City earlier today. The Bureau of Fire Protection suspects that a neglected candle used for Undas started the fire. Joan Nano will tell us why.
This shows how big and how quickly the fire broke at a residential area in Barangay Talon 2, Las Piñas City around 1 o'clock a.m. earlier today. More than 1,000 families lost their homes to the blaze. There were no reported injuries or fatalities in the incident, but authorities are still validating on one reported missing individual. Based on accounts of some residents, they woke up suddenly and saw that many of the houses were already consumed by the fire. They also complained about the alleged late response of firefighters.
Ang bomberon dumating na dapat nakarescue sa yun ang nga problema. Tulad ng sinabi ko kanina, yung nozzle ng hose, pag hindi nagbubukas.
Tapos yung bombero pa, nagbombero, wala naman tubig.
The Bureau of Fire Protection still cannot identify the cause of the fire, but they are suspecting that it started with a neglected candle used for undas. Based on the initial assessment of BFP, more than 800 houses were consumed by the worst fire to ever hit their barangay. Some of the residents are temporarily staying at the covered court of the barangay, where they were given free meals, medicine, and a few clothes, while others went back to their burned houses to collect things that can still be used. According to Barangay Chairman Ruben Sanchez, as to date, they are coordinating with the city government officials to discuss further needs of the fire victims.
Yun ang barangay naman namin, meron kaming budget tungkol sa barangay risk reduction management, meron kaming budget yan. Yung budget na yon, ibibili namin ng damit. Kasi ito, mga 4 days pa siguro ito dito, bibili namin ng pagkain din.
The residents are appealing for help from the government, especially since most of them were not able to rescue even a single belonging. Sean Nano, UNTV News and Rescue, Las Piñas City.
The scheduled trips at Manila North Harbor are not canceled despite the rain and expected typhoon. Aiko Miguel will tell us why.
The scheduled 6 p.m. trips of passengers from Manila North Harbor to Cebu and Cagayan de Oro tonight are not canceled. More than 900 passengers are scheduled to leave tonight. They have been waiting at the passenger terminal since early this morning. Darlene is one of the passengers patiently waiting for their departure.
Kahapon, akala ko hindi matutuloy. Kasi sabi nga nila may bagyo, pero parang okay lang, parang mahina naman yung ulan.
Meanwhile, an estimated 15,000 to 20,000 passengers are expected to arrive at various provincial ports after Undas. More than 1,000 passengers have arrived at 12 noon at Manila North Harbor from Cebu and Cagayan de Oro. 263 passengers have also arrived at 2 this afternoon from Iloilo and Bacolod. Ports across the country are still in full alert status for the influx of passengers who are expected to be arriving today until next week.
Andito rin po ang PNP Maritime together ng Philippine Coast Guard, Philippine Army, at PPA. Tulong-tulong po kami para mapanatili yung kapayapaan, katahimikan dito sa port area.
The weather may be rainy but no cancellation of port trips has been announced today. The Port Administration and PCG still assures the safety of passengers. It is better to cancel or delay trips during heavy rain when it is already too dangerous to sail at sea. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
Due to the small number of passengers traveling after the long weekend, bus operators complain to have lower income as compared to previous holidays. Grace Cassin will tell us why.
Jenilyn sold only less than 10 bus tickets the whole day. A dismal turnout, she says, since trips are usually fully booked during holidays and long weekends.
Medyo konti yung pasahero ngayon, konti yung kita.
Bus operator Pinky Flores agrees that passengers were considerably lesser during the long weekend compared with other holidays in December and April. This has resulted in huge income losses even without deducting the maintenance cost.
Yung sahod araw-araw sa mga empleyado, sa mga driver, ganun. Tapos yung diesel nila pag umalis yung bus dito.
And now that the holiday is over, several passengers have arrived bound for Samar, Tacloban, Ormoc, and Leyte, while there are virtual no passengers bound for Bicol. Passengers, however, are happy because they didn't have to hassle their way through a crowd.
Pag kuha ng ticket, okay naman kasi maluwag naman yung biyahe. Walang ganong pasaherong pauwi.
Despite the small turnout of passengers, authorities continuously check the condition of every bus before traveling to ensure the safety of the passengers. Grace Cassin, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Labor Secretary Silvestre Bello III assures that the business sector has pledged full support for the administration's anti-endo system. Nel Maribuhok will tell us why.
The Department of Labor and Employment has received different proposals to end the endo scheme or contractualization in the country. This after DOLE conducted a series of consultations with stakeholders regarding the issue. According to Labor Secretary Silvestre Bello III, one of the proposals is to make the service provider the employer of the workers.
Yung service provider magiging employer ng worker. It's no longer the principal. In other words, yung worker will be elevated to a level of being a regular employee of the service provider. But he will be entitled to all the benefits of a regular employee.
The president of the Employers Confederation of the Philippines, or ECOP, suggested the strict implementation of existing anti-endo laws instead of pushing some reforms in the labor sector.
And this was advocated by Donald D., who is the president of ECOP. Ang sabi niya, why don't we just implement strictly the provisions of the law on the issue of endo and the issue of contractualization. So ako naman, nakuan ako na parang nabuksan ang isipan ko na bakit kaya hindi maganda pag-isipan yon.
DOLE is scheduled to release its position on the issue of endo and contractualization after the labor summits in Mindanao and Cebu this November. The primary agenda of the summit is the issue on contractualization. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, Mandaluyong City.
The Supreme Court has denied a government motion to recover an additional 25 million peso worth of shares of San Miguel Corporation believed to have been purchased using the Coco Levy Fund. The court ruled that it has no jurisdiction over SMC since it is not a party to the cases filed by CocoFed and a certain Danilo Orsua. Also, SMC was not given the chance to present evidence to support its claim. The High Court, however, clarified that the government can still institute appropriate action to recover the shares. 7 justices concurred with the decision, 6 others inhibited, while Chief Justice Maria Lourdes Sereno and Justice Marvic Leonen dissented. Based on the compromise agreement signed in March 1990 by and between the SMC Group and the United Coconut Planters Bank, the shares will be reconveyed to the government, but this was not realized. These stocks are separate from the 24% SMC shares worth 71 billion pesos, which the Supreme Court awarded to the government in their 2013 decision. Motorists going to Manila are experiencing moderate traffic along España. Joan Ano is at Delta Quezon Avenue to tell us why, live. Yes, Joan.
Yes, good evening, Darlene. We are now right here near in EDSA Quezon Avenue to know the latest traffic update in some major roads within Metro Manila. Let's take a look at the traffic situation. Here in Quezon Avenue, for those vehicles going along España, motorists will experience light to moderate movement of vehicles. Moderate to heavy traffic will start from Roosevelt going to Araneta Avenue and Santo Domingo area until Welcome Rotunda. While for those who are passing along the eastbound area, for those vehicles exiting here in EDSA Quezon Avenue, or for those who are traversing to Commonwealth Avenue, will experience moderate to heavy traffic as of this moment. Let's take a look at some of our live traffic points. First in EDSA Guadalupe. Moderate to heavy traffic is now being experienced by the travelers coming from Guadalupe going to Shaw Boulevard. While for those who are on the opposite side of the lane, for vehicles coming from Orense going to Ayala Macari will experience heavy traffic as of this time. Meanwhile, in España Blumentritt, moderate traffic is now being experienced for the motorists going to UST along España, while moderate traffic as well is being experienced for those who are going to Welcome Rotunda. While in Monumento MacArthur Highway, for those who are going to Marulas, Malinta, Valenzuela, light traffic is currently being experienced by the motorists. Meanwhile, for those travelers going to EDSA and Recto Avenue will also experience light traffic as of this time. Darlene, once again, we would like to remind all the motorists out there that since tomorrow is Thursday, a number coding scheme is still being implemented. All vehicles with plate numbers ending in 7 and 8 is strictly prohibited in all major roads within Metro Manila from 7 o'clock in the morning until 8 o'clock in the evening, since the implementation of the extended hour for number coding scheme has already started today. And that was the latest traffic update. Back to you, Darlene.
Thank you, Joanne. And that's Joanne Ano reporting live from Delta Quezon Avenue.
Next in Y News. Government Chief Peace Negotiator Secretary Silvestre Bello III is optimistic that the joint permanent ceasefire agreement with the CPP, NPA, NDF will be finalized before the year ends.
The Department of Finance is positive over continuous economic growth in the country despite changes in foreign policy.
And President Rodrigo Duterte leads the send-off ceremony of 17 Vietnamese fishermen who were apprehended last September in Vigan, Ilocos Sur.
Y News will be right back. The dismantling of checkpoints across the country is not seen to affect the anti-criminality campaign of the Philippine National Police. Leia Ilagan will tell us why.
The enforcement of the checkpoint is just part of the anti-criminality campaign of the Philippine National Police. Despite its dismantling, it won't have a negative effect on the fight of the PNP against crime. PNP Directorate for Operations Police Chief Superintendent Camilo Cascolan says they have mobile checkpoints that would replace fixed checkpoints. Cascolan says with the mobile checkpoints, the PNP is focused on the enforcement of foot patrols and police visibility.
Ang checkpoint is only one, isa lang yan sa mga factors ng pag-igting natin ng peace and order so that we would be able to maintain the peace and order in the area. Marami pa rin. Meron pa rin tayong tinatawag na mobile patrol, beat patrol, no? And those are visibility patrols that we always do.
The police official also warned the cops who will be caught sleeping inside the mobile checkpoints will face charges.
A reminder already to them that we do not only rely on checkpoints, we rely actually on the mobility of the people, most especially on their visibility. Ay report nyo kami kaagad at kakasuhan namin, ipapapihaw namin kaagad, kasuhan namin yan.
However, the general says the police might still put fixed and mobile patrols in places needed to be cordoned off due to several situations like when there's an intelligent report on criminal presence or when there's a case operational plan in the area.
Ito yung sinasabi na na-implan na kailangang i-cover yung buong area para kung dumaan man yung criminal riding in tandem, other terrorists and other criminals or those committing felonies, at least maagapan kaagad yung paglabas sila o pagpasok sa isang lugar.
Amid the dismantling of checkpoints across the country, the PNP allays fears, assuring the public that they won't neglect their duties and that they will double their effort in increasing police visibility to ensure the safety of the public. Leia Ilagan, UNTV News and Rescue Camp Karame.
The number of crimes against property in Metro Manila has declined drastically since July this year, according to the NCRPO chief. Roderick Mendoza will tell us why.
There was a drastic slump in crimes against property in Metro Manila since the campaign against illegal drugs was launched. Statistics from NCRPO shows that from 2.27 weekly average in January to June, it fell to only 1.24 during the last week of October. According to Metro Manila Police, the decrease in carnapping, robbery and theft cases can be attributed to government's war on illegal drugs.
Wala kang pambili ng droga, mapipilitan kang magnakaw, 'di ba? Kung hirap ka na nga, gumagamit ka pa ng illegal na droga, talagang mapipilitan kang pumatay or pumatay ng tao para nakawan lang siya.
As of now, most of the theft cases recorded in Metro are merely shoplifting. Albayalde expects further decline in crime rate in the coming months.
Hindi naman natin mapangako sa ating taong bayan na talagang pwede nating gawing zero yan, no? Zero incident. Pero still, with this war on drugs natin, sa tingin ko, bababa pa ng todo-todo yung incidents natin, particularly dito sa crimes against properties natin.
Meanwhile, after a peaceful celebration of Undas this year, the police will focus on security preparations for the coming holiday season. Roderick Mendoza, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
Government Peace Negotiator and Labor Secretary Silvestre Bello III is optimistic that the joint permanent ceasefire agreement with the CPP, NPA, and NDF will be finalized before the year ends. Nel Maribuhok will tell us why.
The next round of formal peace talks between the government and Communist Party of the Philippines, National Democratic Front of the Philippines or CPP, NPA, NDF will resume on January 2017. According to Labor Department Secretary and Peace Negotiator Silvestre Bello III, some of the sensitive issues that may be tackled are issues on poverty, independent foreign policies, national industrialization, and genuine land reform.
We will meet again on the third week of January to discuss already the so-called heart and soul of the peace process, which is the issue on social and economic reforms. Because actually this is the issue that addresses the root causes of the armed conflict.
Secretary Bello expressed optimism that the final peace agreement with the rebel group will be signed within a year.
So meron na silang draft na binigay sa amin, meron na rin kaming draft na binigay sa kanila, so that by January, there will be a full discussion on these issues. Hopefully, we could arrive at a consensus within the projected time frame, which is 9 to 12 months.
But before the year ends, they expect to finalize the joint permanent ceasefire agreement with the CPP, NPA, NDF that was originally scheduled for signing last October, but due to some issues that needed to be addressed, was reset.
The Committee on Ceasefire could have not come up with a consensus on certain issues like what is hostile, considered as hostile act. How will you monitor observance of the ceasefire? So I requested that we reset the signing of the joint ceasefire, which was last October 26, to the last week of November, or it might even be on the first week of December.
According to Secretary Bello, signing of the ceasefire agreement is considered as one of the biggest accomplishment of the administration for the year 2016. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, Mandaluyong City.
President Rodrigo Duterte is not keen on using nuclear energy as a power source during his term. Victor Pasare tells us why.
Groups opposing the move to revive the Bataan nuclear power plant have gained support from none other than President Rodrigo Duterte himself. The president stated that he finds no necessity for it so far.
It is not yet an extremist. Wala pa talaga the danger zone that we will die if there's no energy. But when the going gets rough, maybe someday, not during my presidency. Wag muna ngayon.
It can be recalled that some are pushing for the revival of the power plant to address the lack of power supply in some areas. The chief executive stresses that utilization of the power plant will need further study in order to be able to put in place the necessary safeguards.
Really tight safeguards to assure that there will be no disasters if there is a nuclear leak or explosion somewhere in the nuclear reactors that we will be building. Pag may leak yan, pag lahat tayo tatamaan dyan. And it's our country, you should remember that.
Last September, a group of legislators inspected the Bataan nuclear power plant to find out whether it can still be operated or will the government have to put up a new one. However, the group Philippine Movement for Climate Justice has been opposing the idea of regenerating the BNPP. They said it's wiser to just build renewable energy plants, which is much safer and cleaner. Victor Cosare, UNTV News and Rescue, Davao City.
PNP Chief Ronald De La Rosa says that the cancellation of the planned sale of firearms to the PNP is not a loss for the Philippine government. Leia Ilagan will tell us why.
That was the declaration of PNP Chief Police Director General Ronald Bato de la Rosa after a U.S. Senator blocked the supply of 27,000 Sig Sauer N4 rifle to PNP. De la Rosa says U.S. recent move is not PNP's loss but of the company that was supposed to supply the firearm since they would lose sales.
I don't care kung pabubuli yun or panggigipit. Basta sa akin, it's their loss, not ours. Di ba sa negosyo, yung nagbibenta ang nalulugi, hindi yung bumibili. Dahil tayo naman ay bumibili lang, hindi ba tayo nanghihingi?
Bato noted that they will no longer insist on buying firearms from the US, but would just search for other countries that can supply the PNP with similar firearms. Among the countries considered are Germany, Belgium, Israel, and other countries that produce M4 rifles. De La Rosa says the Philippines might just lose time as the purchasing of new firearms from another supplier would require another set of bidding process. This would cause a delay in the delivery of assault rifles to the Philippines.
Ang panghinayang ko lang dito is not for anything else, kundi yung time lost. Dahil nga, hindi basta-basta magbibid uli ng ganito kalaking procurement. Yung bidding process ay napakahaba.
It can be recalled that U.S. Democrat Senator Ben Cardenas blocked the firearm sale because of alleged extrajudicial killings happening in the Philippines under the Duterte administration. General Bato, meanwhile, has this say to Senator Cardin, "Let him be." United States Department spokesperson John Kirby meanwhile explains that they have been helping the Philippines for the time now, but they don't want the assistance they provide to be used for human rights violations.
Our assistance programs are designed to address human rights concerns by expanding Philippine capacity to conduct effective, lawful investigations and professionalizing the criminal justice system so that it's more accountable, transparent, effective, and just.
The PNP has yet to receive a formal cancellation of firearms sale. The rifles are supposed to be delivered in the Philippines in April next year. Should the cancellation will push through, the PNP says it won't file a breach of contract case to the supplier as the situation is already beyond the company's control. Leia Ilagan, UNTV News and Rescue, Camp Crame.
The Department of Finance is optimistic that the Philippine economy will continue to grow despite changes in foreign policy. Rosalie Cos tells us why.
The Department of Finance assures economic stability in the country despite the warning of Moody's Investor Service recently. According to Moody's Investor Service, economic growth can be hindered by changes in the foreign policy of the Philippines. But Finance Secretary Sonny Dominguez says the economic fundamentals are clear. There is low inflation rate. The currency is stable. The Philippines has active, intelligent, and young workforce.
Look at the fundamentals. It's really hard to see where we could go wrong.
Meanwhile, to ensure development plans will push through, the Department of Finance has a marching order for the Bureau of Customs and Bureau of Internal Revenue in the last quarter of the year.
Collect. Because we need the money to spend on the infrastructure. It's not collection so that we have a big bank account.
To guarantee zero corruption in the BOC, the Department of Finance is willing to conduct lifestyle check on all its employees. Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
The 17 Vietnamese fishermen who were apprehended last September in Vigan, Ilocos Sur have been finally sent home. Ray Pelayo tells us why.
Vietnamese fishermen who were apprehended in Vigan, Ilocos Sur in September are going home to Vietnam. President Rodrigo Duterte led the send-off ceremony at the wharf and causeway in Suwal, Pangasinan earlier today. The patrolling boat of the Philippine Navy caught 3 Vietnamese poaching vessels with 17 fishermen at a distance of 21 nautical miles west of Dile Point, Ilocos Sur on September 8. The foreign fishermen were immediately charged of violating Republic Act No. 10654, Section 91 and CA 613, Section 37 because of fishing in the territory of the country and entering without the necessary documents. However, the Associate Provincial Prosecutor has dismissed the complaints against them, blaming the typhoon and the southwest monsoon for pushing men's vessels into Philippine territory. It can be recalled that following President Duterte's visit to Vietnam in September, he said that he wants to release the said Vietnamese fishermen to show the goodwill of the Philippine government towards Vietnam. Meanwhile, the Philippine Navy guided the fishermen up to the 24 nautical miles as they headed to their country. Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Coming up, Pag-asa is monitoring 2 tropical depressions in the Pacific Ocean, wherein one is likely to enter the Philippine area of responsibility by tomorrow.
The latest Australian investigation report on the missing Malaysia flight MH370 suggests that no one was in control of the plane during the crash.
And Denmark is planning to build a gigantic fairy tale museum for the most translated writer in the world, hence Christian Andersen.
More from Y News after this break. The Philippine Atmospheric, Geophysical and Astronomical Services Administration, or PAGASA, is monitoring 2 tropical cyclones. The farthest one was located at 2,920 kilometers east of Luzon, with maximum sustained winds of 55 kilometers per hour and gustiness of 70 kilometers per hour. It is not expected to enter the Philippine Area of Responsibility, or PAR, as it moves in a west-northwest direction at 25 kilometers per hour. The other tropical depression was located at 1,440 kilometers east of Visayas, packed with maximum sustained winds of 45 kilometers per hour and gustiness of 55 kilometers per hour. It moves in northwest direction at 17 kilometers per hour. Pag-asa says this cyclone is expected to enter PAR by tomorrow morning, but they are still monitoring if it will hit the country. Meanwhile, the Intertropical Convergence Zone is affecting Mindanao, Visayas, and southern Luzon, which will bring light to moderate rains in the areas. The same weather pattern will also be experienced in Bicol region, Mimaropa, and Calabar zone. The northeast monsoon is affecting the northern and central Luzon, that will bring light rains in Ilocos Norte and Cagayan. At least 2 people were killed and several more are still missing in central Vietnam floods on Wednesday, with thousands of homes completely submerged in water. Local authorities in Ha Tinh and Quang Binh provinces have ordered more than 30,000 students to stay home after water levels rose up to 2 meters after heavy torrential rains. Army and police have been mobilized to rescue stranded residents when barriers collapsed under heavy water pressure along rivers. Authorities say rain and risk of flooding would continue until the end of the week.
A patient with an eye condition known as pterygium now has better vision through UNTV Serbisyong Kasangbahay. Jun Sorial tells us why.
47-year-old Roy Espiritu came all the way from Barangay San Roque, Antipolo, Rizal to seek help from the UNTV Action Center for the treatment of his eye problem. Roy is a former driver, but when his vision blurred due to a condition called pterygium, he stopped driving and just helped his wife sell goods to make a living.
Parang hindi na ako makaaninaw ng tao, makaaninag. Isa pa po, hindi ako makapagtrabaho ng maayos. Doon sa trabaho ko kasi kailangan malinaw ang mata.
UNTV Serbisyong Kasangbahay immediately brought Roy to the Fatima University Medical Center, one of its partners in public service.
Meron po siyang tinatawag na pugita or sa English, pterygium. Ito po ay laman na kumakapal na nagsisimula sa gilid ng mata at lumalago at lumalaki patungo sa cornea, yung pinakasentro ng paningin sa harapan.
After being checked by retinal specialist Dr. Vicente Santos Jr., Roy underwent an eye surgery.
Ang gagawin po natin is a surgical excision with conjunctival autograft. Ang ibig po sabihin ng conjunctival autograft, kukuha tayo ng laman na nandun sa parehong mata at yun ang itatapal po natin pang takip dun sa pinutol na pugita. Napakasimple po ng procedure. Life back to normal lang po.
Napakalaking bagay po nung natugunan o katugunan nung maoperahan po itong aking mata. Dahil isa po yun sa pangunahing kailangan ko para ako'y makapaghanap buhay ng maayos.
Roy is currently recuperating from the successful operation. Jun Suriao for Serbisyong Kasangbahay.
A hospital in Yemen's Hodeidah, where a prison was recently hit by a deadly airstrike, says that malnutrition has become worse in the area. Bong Luqueza tells us why.
Yemen's Hodeidah Hospital has over the past year received 681 malnutrition cases, 85 of whom died, according to a report from the hospital chief nurse on Tuesday, November 1.
في الفترة الأخيرة هذه حالات كثيرا جدا نتيجة العدوان ونتيجة الحصار ونتيجة بعض عدم الإمكانيات المادية والمالية للمرضى. بعضها تتم منها وفيات كثيرة. عدد الرقود الآن إلى غاية الآن من بداية السنة إلى شهر 10 ما يقارب 681 حالة. عدد الوفيات منها 85 حالة. يأخذ النصيب الأكبر من الوفيات اللي هي مركز المحافظة.
The coastal city of Hodeidah, one of Yemen's most populous, has been faced with malnutrition, poverty and starvation since war broke out in the country, where the Saudi-led coalition has been fighting the Houthi movement since March 2015. Late on Saturday, October 29, a prison in Hodeidah holding 84 inmates was struck by the Arab coalition 3 times, according to the province deputy governor. Medical sources said 60 people were killed in the raid. Bong Luqueza, UNTV News and Rescue, Middle East.
The fire breaks out at a karaoke club in Hanoi, killing 13 people. RJ Timoteo will tell us why.
Statement. The incident has prompted the Prime Minister to order Hanoi City government to close down karaoke parlors and restaurants that failed to observe preventive measures. RJ Timoteo, UNTV News and Rescue, Vietnam.
1 person was killed and 5 others were injured after a helicopter crashes into a house in Russia's Sochi. Ronald De Guzman will tell us why.
A helicopter crashed into a house in the Russian city of Sochi on Tuesday, November 1st, killing 1 person and injuring 5 others. The Interior Ministry's Transport Department for the Southern Federal District says an investigation is underway to determine what caused the Eurocopter-350 private helicopter to come down in the residential area near the village of Besyoloye. House owner Gennady Litvinov says his wife, who was inside the home when the helicopter crashed, had survived the incident.
Услышал большой такой гром, как бы сказать. Она только в дом зашла. Ну что я могу сказать? Ну, Бог спас мою жену. Вот. Людей, конечно, жалко. Главное, люди, их жалко.
А что вы увидели?
Я вышел, увидел вот эту картину, вот мой дом. Вышел, выбежал.
5 out of the 6 people on board the helicopter survived the incident and 1 was killed, according to the spokesman for the Emergency Ministry's Southern Regional Center. Ronald De Guzman, UNTV News and Rescue, Moscow, Russia.
Malaysia signed an agreement to buy 4 Chinese naval vessels, which could be China's latest counter to United States influence in the region. Eric Quinto will tell us why.
Malaysia has agreed to buy 4 Chinese naval vessels and pledged with Beijing to handle South China Sea disputes bilaterally, according to a Chinese official on Tuesday, November 1st. The vessels are known as littoral mission ships, small craft that operate close to shore. 2 will be built in China and 2 in Malaysia. Malaysia state media reported after a meeting between Chinese Premier Li Keqiang and his visiting counterpart Prime Minister Najib Razak. China's Vice Foreign Minister Liu Qianmin said the agreement would increase mutual trust between the 2 countries, though he declined to give further details.
两国还没有谈那么细，两国现在只谈防务合作，是要加强两国海军的合作。因为什么呢？刚才我讲到，中马作为南海沿岸国，我想加强两国海军的合作，对于维护南海的和平稳定。
Last week, Malaysia's defense ministry said in a posting on social media that the country would sign a contract to purchase patrol vessels from China during Najib's visit, but the post was later removed. The move marks Malaysia's first significant defense deal with China at a time of rising tension in the South China Sea.
The Malaysian Prime Minister arrived in China on Sunday, October 31, for a week-long visit to build closer ties and seek investment. Eric Quinto, UNTV News and Rescue, Shanghai, China.
The British and French government struggles to guarantee the protection of youngsters left in limbo after the evacuation of the jungle. Gerry will tell us why.
The plight of hundreds of minors, nearly 1,500 of whom are now in temporary lodging in container boxes in the northern port city of Calais, remained unclear as the demolition of one of Europe's largest migrant camps neared completion. Bulldozers are flattening the sprawl of ramshackle huts and tents which had been home to about 6,000 refugees and migrants from Asia, the Middle East and Africa hoping to cross the English Channel and start a new lives in Britain. Most have now been bused to other centers across France pending examination of their cases, but the fate of the minors roaming the area has become a point of dispute between Britain and France. French government officials in the region say that 1,451 minors are in the container box lodgings. Britain has so far accepted 274 children from among this group. Aid groups say hundreds, if not thousands, more adults and minors may have fled into the hinterland around the jungle, ready to return when the heavy police presence wanes. Britain must take in unaccompanied children who have family ties there. An amendment to those rules adopted in Britain this year states that such minors whose best interests are served by doing so should also be admitted. Gerry, UNTV News and Rescue, Paris, France.
The latest report on the missing Malaysia flight MH370 suggests that no one was in control of the plane during the crash. Abel Ciliano tells us why.
A new report into missing Malaysia Airlines MH370 says that additional analysis of satellite communications from the aircraft was consistent, with it being in a high and increasing rate of descent when it vanished. The report by the Australian Transport Safety Bureau, or HSB, which is leading the search for MH370, says additional analysis of wing flap debris found the aircraft was not configured for a landing. Both pieces of information support the agency's long-held view that an unpiloted MH370 descended rapidly after running out of fuel with no human intervention. The 28-page report released on Wednesday, November 2, containing the new end-of-flight and drip simulations, coincides with the start of a 3-day meeting of international experts to develop potential plans to continue the search for MH370. Australian Transport Minister Darren Chester, who is chairing the Canberra meeting of experts, says the group would review all available data and analysis associated with the search.
We've remained hopeful throughout the whole process that we are searching the right area, and the report released today confirms we are searching in the right area. But in the absence of finding the aircraft, obviously, it leaves room for further speculation and theories. But I simply won't second-guess the experts. The information provided to us is that we are searching in the right area.
John Dawson, a partner at Carney's Lawyers, said he had been advised he would receive the information by the end of the month. The information is to include medical certificates held by the flight crew. The Beijing-bound Malaysia Airlines flight disappeared with 239 passengers and crew shortly after taking off from Kuala Lumpur in March 2014. 6 Australians and 153 Chinese nationals were on board. Abel Ciliano, UNTV News and Rescue, Perth, Australia.
Future Hall of Famer Ray Allen retires from the NBA. Meanwhile, a German import horse wins at the Melbourne Cup race. Aaron Romero tells us why.
German import Almandine wins a heart-pounding sprint to the finish line at Flemington Racecourse at the race's first Melbourne Cup race. It gives owner Lloyd Williams his 5th Melbourne Cup in the race's 156th running, and jockey Karen McEvoy his 2nd after his win on Brew in 2000.
He's just willing to win. He just had a dream run, and Lloyd's prepared him great.
I'm a proud Melburnian, and I can't tell you how touched I am to be winning this race today.
The 7-year-old gelding was trained by Australian Robert Hickmott. Meanwhile, Pep Guardiola was left thrilled after Manchester City revived their Champions League bid by beating his old club Barcelona 3-1 in a gloriously open Group C encounter at the Etihad Stadium yesterday. Ilkay Guendogan scored twice and Kevin De Bruyne netted a superb free kick in a magnificent display from the home side that ended Barcelona's 100% record and made handsome amends for City's 4-0 drubbing at the Nou Camp 2 weeks ago. And in NBA, 10-time All-Star and 2-time NBA champion Ray Allen officially has formally announced his retirement from the game. He walks away from the NBA court as the all-time leader in 3 points made, one of the greatest three-point and free throw shooters in NBA history. He was first drafted by the Minnesota Timberwolves in 1996 as its number 5 pick. Aaron Romero, UNTV News and Rescue, New York.
The hometown of Hans Christian Andersen reveals plans to build a gigantic fairy tale museum for the most translated writer in the world. Jovic Bermas will tell us why.
Because all our guests are coming from the whole world. And with this house and the new way we tell the history about Andersen, it will be a good experience for all our guests, national and international.
A new museum dedicated to the life and work of Danish fairy tale writer Hans Christian Andersen, author of The Ugly Duckling and The Little Mermaid, is to be built in his birthplace of Odense. The city government announces that a donation of 125 million Danish krone, or about $33 million from the AP Moller Foundation, will make the museum a reality after years in the planning. The Japanese architecture group Kangokuma and Associates has presented a winning proposal that will create a new magical museum over a total area of 5,600 square meters, most of it underground. Officials say it would complement an existing museum in Odense, which charts Andersen's personal life and travels by focusing more on the magic of his fairy tales. It will provide a unique possibility to create Andersen's fairy tale universe in a way that will appeal to both children and adults, said a local cultural official, Jane Jejind.
An interactive museum can give you the possibility to touch, to experience, to go deeper into the facts of a fairy tale. It's so much more than words. It's a universe that unfolds for you and your children.
Andersen's fairy tales have been translated in 260 languages. 20 years ago in Copenhagen, where he lived most of his life, his works and related attractions in Copenhagen's harbor still draw many tourists to Denmark. Jovic Bermas, UNTV News and Rescue, Europe.
Those are the reasons behind the news, November 2, 2016. I'm Angelo, Castro III.
Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I'm Gerry, Alcantara.
And I'm Darlene, Basingan, because we need to know.
We will always ask why. Thank you for watching Y News.